it's Kate Leahy here with another recipe from our book, Lavash. Today we're going to be making Gata. Think of it as the Armenian answer to coffee cake. It can either be really large and baked in a clay oven called a tonnier, or it can be really small and bite-sized. Today we're going to be making the Goldilocks of Gata, which is just right and it can fit into your oven at home. So let's get started. First thing we're going to do is make a dough. We're going to start by taking sugar. This is about a 1/3 cup of sugar with a 1/4 cup of unsalted butter. This butter is at room temperature. I'm going to take this butter and sugar and mash it into a paste. And that's what I really like about this dough, is that you can just make it all by hand. You don't need any special equipment, just some bowls. This nice little spatula helps. Okay, so now that the butter and sugar are mixed, we're going to make the rest of our dough. Let's take 1/2 cup of yogurt, 1/4 cup of sour cream. Sour cream adds just slightly a little bit more richness than yogurt alone. So I'm going to mix these together. All right, now let's add a teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. What's really interesting about adding baking soda to the yogurt and sour cream is it's going to start activating. Within, say, 30 seconds, you'll start seeing bubbles. I can already start hearing it making some noise, making some bubbling sounds. So at this point, that beautiful butter sugar mix that we had earlier, put that in there. Okay, let's start to get that mixed in. So when it's smooth but not perfectly smooth, you can have a couple bumps of sugar and butter still in there, but that's the time when I add the flour. This is a 1 3/4 cup of flour. I'm just going to mix the flour in gently until it starts to form a nice cohesive dough. We learn how to make this particular type of Gata in Dilijan. And Dilijan is a beautiful sort of mountain vacation place in northern Armenia. Alex, who is the chef of the Tefenkian resort there, had us into his kitchen, and within, I want to say like 30 minutes, he had made 2 Gata, just like the one I'm showing you. And they were beautiful. It was simple. He said it came from his grandmother. And so we thought, yeah, can we use your recipe in our cookbook? And of course he was delighted to let us. So we changed it just to make it work in an American kitchen, but essentially it's true to his original. Okay, so now you can see the dough is coming together. I'm using the palm of my hand to knead the dough. You can also do this on the counter if your bowl is a little small and feeling a little cramped. It's starting to stick a little. I'm gonna dust it with a little extra flour. All right. Now that is looking great. I'm just gonna move this. So you know the dough is ready when it's not sticking to your hands and it kind of lightly springs up. It's not sticking also to the counter or the cutting board. And at this point, I'm gonna refrigerate it for say 10-15 minutes just to make it a little easier to shape it when it's time to shape it with the filling. Dough is chilling in the refrigerator, so it's time for the next step, which is to make the filling. When you're making Gata, you can either make it with nuts or without nuts. This version has nuts, traditionally walnuts. If you don't like walnuts or you want to just try another variation, feel free to mess around. Almonds, pecans, both of those are really great. Okay, looks like the walnuts are ready to go. You have some big pieces, some small pieces. I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the bowl to mix the rest of the filling. So I've got a 1/4 cup of sugar, a couple tablespoons of butter. Again, it's room temperature butter. 1.5 tablespoons of flour. And then I like to add a pinch of salt, just so things aren't too sweet. Okay, the best way to mix this filling is to really get in there with your hands and just squish everything together. It's okay to make a mess. I'm very good at making messes, but you know, that's how you learn. Sometimes it's kind of nice to mess around, literally. All right, so now the filling is kind of like a very coarse topping for a crumble or something like that. It's going to melt together while you bake it and make this beautiful sort of caramel, nutty filling that's completely delicious. So now that the filling is ready, it's time to shape the gata. I'm gonna dust the counter just lightly. Here is my chilled gata dough. And I'm gonna press this with my hands into about a 10-inch circle. What's really cool about this pastry is that you don't need a rolling pin even. You just use your hands. What I am doing here is I'm leaving a mound in the center. So I'm pressing the sides out, but kind of, if you can tell, it's a little bit domed right here. And the reason I do that is because this center is where the filling is going to go. And I want to make sure that it doesn't get too thin on the bottom there, so the filling, it's more trapped into the dough when it bakes. Okay, we're almost there. Let me check with a ruler. All right, pretty much this is about a 10-inch circle. And now let's put our filling in. We're gonna mound the filling in the center, leaving about an inch or so on the sides. Now this is the part where I like to pretend this gata is actually a really big dumpling, because the way you're going to seal it up, you're gonna gather the edges and bring them together in the center and kind of crimp them, like you're making a little purse, a little dumpling. Soup dumpling, it's just the sweet, cakey version that you would have with a cup of coffee. All right, so as you can see, it's a little dumpling-like. It doesn't have to look perfect as long as you seal it up. So I'm just gonna pinch, 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 seal it so the filling won't leak out. And you know, to be honest, if filling does leak out, it's quite okay. The rest of the gata will still be quite beautiful and delicious. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on the pan for baking. So slide this over, make sure everything looks sealed up here. Take your gata and then put it seam side down on the pan. And then you just press it down with your hands. You wanna flatten it out. And this helps also distribute that really delicious filling. All right, so we have our gata. Looks nice, but now it's time to, you know, add a little decoration. Something that we saw in Armenia is that some gata had absolutely beautiful, almost like calligraphy, people's names on the gata itself. And I think one of the reasons it emerged as a way to identify that was your gata coming out of the communal oven and not another family's. We're not worried. We know that it's coming out of my oven, so I'm just gonna do a really simple design on top. But you know, feel free to get creative if you're feeling it. So I'm taking the tines of a fork and I'm just drawing it across the top, pressing down pretty firmly because the dough is gonna puff up a little bit when it bakes. It's not gonna tear the dough. Just don't press it down like this. Just gently kind of pressing this way, not like this. You don't need to poke holes in it. Now all I need is a little bit of egg wash. One egg, just kind of whipped with a little bit of water, is more egg wash than you need, but you can keep the egg wash for a couple of days, the extra egg wash, and use it to bake, you know, whatever else you might have going on in your kitchen. Maybe you'll make multiple gata. They do freeze well. You can easily double this recipe and give it to family and friends. Drop it off and keep your social distancing working and make someone's day. Okay, so the gata is glazed with a little egg wash. I should say, if you're low on eggs, just use a little cold water to just give it a tiny bit of a just finish. At this point, the gata is ready for the oven. You can bake gata at 375 if you have a conventional oven. If you do have convection, use that at 350, and that's what I'm going to do today. So let's put this guy in the oven. So to recap, I baked the Gata for 30 minutes, rotating it about 15 minutes into the baking process. I used a convection oven at 350. If you don't have convection, just use it at 375. You probably know your oven better than I do, and if your oven's a little cool, bump up the degrees a little bit. You want some nice hot heat. So let's take a look at the Gata. I've let it cool for about 15 minutes so the filling has a time to just settle in and melt into the Gata. Let's check it out. So the bottom is nice and golden brown. That means it's baked all the way through. And it's got this great glaze. This is looking like it's gonna be pretty delicious. Okay, so you can see there's this nice little line of filling. You can see the nuts and the butter and the sugar just all meld together into a really kind of just simple, nice, sweet treat. Just how I remember it. Now, if you excuse me, I need to go get myself a nice cup of coffee, but stay tuned for more recipes from Team Lavash, and thanks for watching.